Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. In a couple of seconds, you will hear Vivek Ramaswamy, former president and future president Donald Trump. You'll hear Nikki Haley. We're going to talk about $120 million that was basically given to Trump as a donation from Nikki Haley. So this was the best thing to happen to Trump in terms of having his adversaries within the Republican Party donate to his campaign. I want you to watch this right now and hit subscribe. This is what I'm talking about right here, okay?
And I love all the attention, fellas. Thank you for that. But when it comes to these corporate people that want to suddenly support us, we'll take it.
I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is, and now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt.
Fact of the matter is, we know from her history, Nikki will cave to those big donors when it counts, and that is not acceptable.
First of all, he's mad because those Wall Street donors used to support him, and now they support me.
She said that I have a woman problem.
So the reality is all the money that would have been spent, the $120 million, so this is the Daily Caller. According to the Daily Caller and the research within this article, she spent, along with her super PACs or other interest groups, $120 million losing to Trump, okay, in stunning fashion. This is $120 million that Trump's adversaries or competitors within the GOP, which are no longer around anymore. Nikki Haley wasn't even an adversary, but he controls the GOP with Laura Trump now, thank God. Clinton did that. It was a complete takeover of the DNC. The chairwoman had to resign. DNC emails showed that Democrats don't even have a functioning primary. And what can I tell you other than $120 million was donated to Trump from Nikki Haley? We can listen to this. Essentially.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Wall Street is in the middle of a major swoon for Nikki Haley, as you say, and it's easy to understand why. As GOP presidential candidate, the former South Carolina governor offers a mix of traditional Republican tax and spending policies without the tendency of frontrunner Donald Trump to attack individual companies, and of course, without his extensive legal troubles. Billionaire Ken Langone lavished Haley with praise on CNBC yesterday, and even Democratic JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said Democrats on Wall Street should send her money to ensure a Republican alternative to Trump. Now, Haley rolled out her economic plan in September, pledging to eliminate the federal gas tax and offer permanent small business tax relief. She would eliminate the state and local tax deduction, which could cause some angst to her supporters in the Northeast, where taxpayers generally benefit the most from it. She also says she would cut income tax rates. Haley criticizes both Joe Biden and Donald Trump for running up the federal deficit and says she would link federal spending to a percentage of the U.S. economy. She would also eliminate Biden's green energy subsidies and says she would withhold Congress's pay if it fails to pass the budget, although it's hard to see how she would get Congress itself to go along with that last one. Haley also says she would cut regulations by requiring congressional approval for any federal rule with an economic impact of $100 million or more. Now, Haley's critics say that although she denounces, quote unquote, corporate welfare now, as governor, she lavished subsidies and tax cuts on companies such as Boeing, Volvo, and BMW in an effort to bring them to South Carolina. And they say that simply offering more goodies to lure jobs from, say, Georgia does nothing to move the needle on jobs nationwide and could cause worker pay cuts while placing a burden on taxpayers. Guys, back over to you.
So Nikki Haley was the favorite of billionaires, very wealthy Republicans or conservatives for a moment. They've all gone to Trump. Almost all of them now have gone to Trump. Okay? The $120 million that Nikki Haley spent was essentially a campaign donation to Trump. Now, the Never Trump Republicans do not have the money to do anything against Trump. Their voice or their influence within American politics is pretty much done. Nobody cares about the Lincoln Project or Liz Cheney or anything Kinzinger or others say. They all voted, Kinzinger and Cheney voted alongside Trump over 90% of the time, according to 538. So again, you have $120 million, and hit subscribe to this channel if you're new, essentially being given to Trump. Okay, if you are Nikki Haley and you went that long into the primary, losing by double digits, you have basically spent all the money that any Never Trump Republican would waste on trying to defeat Trump. $120 million doesn't grow on trees. Let's listen to some more analysis on this, or an educational segment on this.
Big money rather, is backing away from Nikki Haley after her New Hampshire primary loss.
Do you know who Kenny Rogers is?
Yes, of course.
You have to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. It's time for Nikki Haley to walk away. I will be the first person to write her a check for president in 2028. There's no viable path to continue. You can only harm yourself by going to South Carolina and losing by 30-plus points.
Florida Congressman Greg Steube joins us now. Congressman, great to see you as always.
Yes.
Should Nikki Haley go, on the one hand, Kenny Rogers, or, in a nod to you being a Florida Gator alum, Tom Petty, and not back down?
Oh, there you go. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, look, the Republican Party is all behind Donald Trump. It's clear. He crushed it in Iowa. He won the most votes of any primary voter on the R side or the D side in New Hampshire, and he's leading Nikki Haley in South Carolina by 30 points. There's no, just like that donor said, there's no path for her. Ron DeSantis got out. Tim Scott got out long before because he saw that there wasn't a path for him. It's time for the Republican Party to unite behind Donald Trump as our nominee and go into November fighting against Joe Biden.
So Nikki Haley says the worst kept secret in politics is how badly the Democrats want to run against Donald Trump. What about that? The fact that polls show that she defeats President Biden more easily than Donald Trump. Those poll numbers are more a head-to-head matchup.
I just saw poll numbers that were the opposite of that. It shows Trump beating Biden and her not winning Biden. I think it was real clear politics. So, of course, it depends on what polls you look at. But consistently, over the last 6 months to a year, the strongest person to go against Joe Biden for Republicans in November is Donald Trump. He's the only person that can walk in on day one and reverse all of this horrible policy that the Biden administration has put on the American people over the last 3 years. I endorsed him a long time ago. It's time for all of us to get behind, stop spending money in primaries, and focus on Joe Biden.
Well, Congressman, a lot of people are already looking ahead towards the general election and seeing what they think is an inevitability that former President Trump is going to be the eventual nominee. But there's also conversation around uniting the party. And some people say the best way to do that is for Donald Trump to pick Nikki Haley as a vice president because she then would get moderate voters. What do you think about that?
Yeah, apparently he's already made that decision. I don't think that the base, I don't know what he would gain by putting Nikki Haley as the vice president. I certainly would want somebody that's going to diversify the ticket from a political standpoint. He's apparently already made his decision, so I don't want to speculate as to who that person is. But the bottom line is we need Trump in the White House in November, and so that he can start in January to bring our country back on track.
That donor also saying the same thing Huckabee was saying. Nikki Haley, don't soil your reputation for 2028. You have a long career.
Ron
You're
DeSantis
young.
too.
Go for it. And it seems like she's going to stick in, so we'll see. Meantime, before we let you go, an atheist group sent you a letter about the
So, like I said, they tried and failed with $120 million to knock Trump out. They knew it was never going to happen. They were counting on two things. One, that the Republican Party in some way would disqualify Trump because they were hoping, Nikki Haley, even DeSantis, I think, others were hoping that he would get convicted in New York. Okay. He's not going to get convicted. Trump will not spend even 1 second, 1 nanosecond in prison or jail ever. Can't be so certain for a number of Democrats. But the Florida case, he's a president with the power to declassify. Okay. He's not going to get convicted there. The D.C. case, the Supreme Court essentially already gave him immunity. And that's not going to even be a trial until after November of 2024, when he can do away with the special counsel. The special counsel is part of the executive branch. As president, he could do away with the special counsel. So that's done. The Georgia case has been an unmitigated, unparalleled disaster for Democrats. Okay, that's done. The New York fraud case, he's already gotten the bond for one of the trials, one of the cases he lost. And then he can do business in New York. The appeals court gave him a huge victory. I talked about it on this channel. He can get any loan he wants to from any New York bank. Then he got about $10 billion in terms of the Truth Social merger. All right? And then he has the appreciation of all his other properties. So these pundits on the left, Democrats, they have this absurd, stupid obsession with trying to make Trump bankrupt him, and focusing on how much money he owes. Like, the guy is going to make millions and millions just on sneakers, and then he's going to make billions on Truth Social. So he has 79 million shares. Then he can get loans from banks that want to do business with him. So the one thing you're not going to do is bankrupt Trump. He's a billionaire. He's about $3.2 billion. His net worth went up after leaving office. Okay. Then he has Elon Musk, who's going to allow him a platform. Nothing's going to be banned or suspended or censored on Twitter, this November, unlike the 50 intelligence officials that came out of nowhere to silence discussion about the corruption within the Democratic Party. Okay, 4 years ago. Okay, so Democrats censor anything they don't like, the corruption within their party, which is rampant. And so Trump is sitting pretty. There's nothing stopping Trump. And now he has no Never Trumper money. So the Never Trumpers ran out of money with Nikki Haley. Okay, they probably should have just not spent all of that, but they really wanted to try. And it wouldn't have worked anyway, but $120 million, they could have just spent $20-30 million and have Nikki Haley drop out after New Hampshire. But they didn't do that. So now they have no money left. Essentially, I don't know, it's $120 million from all of these Never Trump organizations. That just resulted in Trump winning a wonderful victory in South Carolina, Nikki Haley's home state. And so $120 million led to this in South Carolina. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel.
An even bigger win than we anticipated. And I was just informed that we got double the number of votes that has ever been received in the great state of South Carolina. So that's pretty good. So it's a record times 2. And there's something going on in the country. Some really great things are going on. You look outside and you see all of the horror. You see millions and millions of people coming across the border illegally. We don't know where they come from. They come from jails. They come from prisons. They come from... And I am very humbly asking... We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. We fixed it very quickly. And in 2020, we couldn't talk about it, although we did get millions of more votes the second time. But now there's a spirit that I have never seen. We ran 2 great races, but there's never been a spirit like this. And I just want to say that I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now. Never been like this. And a big part of that is the people standing behind me. These are the biggest officials in South Carolina, but I say like the biggest officials in our country as far as I'm concerned. They're state figures, but they're national figures, and in the truest sense of the word, they love our country so much, and they want to see our country succeed and be respected again. Right now, we're a laughing stock all over the world. Our country is going to be respected again, respected like never before.
The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that the United States was respected with Trump. Okay? The United States was respected with Trump. The United States is not respected now because there's zero foreign policy vision. There's absolutely zero foreign policy vision. Okay? You can see that Biden has, even people who vote Democrat don't think that Biden has any strategic or foreign policy strategy, vision. Okay, he just governs based on poll numbers or what he thinks would be good for the Democratic Party. He doesn't have any conviction at all. Trump was the first president to step foot in North Korea, negotiated the Doha Agreement, which was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. Okay. Abraham Accords, which you have, many in that region trying to undo because it was a very good peace deal. You had all of these. Oh, where was the invasion in Europe under Trump? Didn't happen. So we didn't have the chaos in numerous regions of the world. We weren't talking about Taiwan possibly being blockaded or invaded under Trump. Categorically, objectively, the best president for foreign policy in the past 20 years plus was Trump. Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, President Obama, his foreign policy destroyed Libya. And then you have Biden, numerous quagmires. Trump, we didn't have these. We had a meltdown from media. Okay, the Helsinki conference was like the end of the world for media with Trump. But here I want to listen to, hold on one second. Let's listen to this. So I want you to listen to Nikki Haley, and this is kind of why nobody can come close to Trump. Kind of, if you just listen to the difference between Trump and any other Republican, there's really no comparison, okay? Let's listen to Nikki Haley and exactly why she was never any match for Trump, and never Trumpers wasted their $120 million.
Takeaway, I think, coming in after South Carolina is you look at all the early states, and Donald Trump, as technically the Republican incumbent, did not win 40% of the vote. So what you are looking at is something is shifting, and this has been happening for a while. Look at the Michigan Republican Party. I was here campaigning in 2012 for people running for office. Michigan was a bright light. They were winning races up and down the ticket. They had passed a right-to-work law. Everything was great. And once Donald Trump came in 2016, they've now lost the governor's race, the governor's mansion. They've lost the state house. They've lost the state senate. The party is completely divided.
That's because Democrats and Paul Ryan and Republicans investigated a Republican president for years on an absurd McCarthy-era Red Scare. That's what happens when Republicans investigate a Republican president based on the Steele dossier purchased by Clinton and the DNC. And by the way, Clinton and the DNC were fined by the FEC. The Steele dossier is the epitome of fake, fabricated, phony nonsense, news that was completely and utterly false. And it's like Trump tries to sue for defamation, and there's like a technicality. Meanwhile, any lawsuit in New York, oh my God, Trump is convicted. But if anyone should have won the defamation suit, it's Trump against a whole bunch of people who lied continuously. Nikki Haley talks about the Republican Party in turmoil after Trump. That's not Trump's fault. That ain't Trump's fault. That's the fault of Republicans who sided with Democrats, like they did with the $120 million from Nikki Haley. Don't blame Trump for Republican Party insanity and like the inept, incompetence of the Republican Party. Okay, had you simply just backed Trump, none of those things would have happened in Michigan and Georgia and other places. Let's continue.
And that's not just Michigan. We are seeing that all over the country, that the Republican Party is fully divided, and you now have factions. You can't win a general election if you don't acknowledge the 40% of Republicans who are saying, we don't want Donald Trump. And you can't do that if you've got a candidate who says anyone who supports his opponent is barred permanently.
Trump is literally, along with Reagan, the most popular Republican presidents in the past 40 years. He is, along with Reagan, the most popular Republican president. Pony Soldier, thank you! So, and there isn't 40% of Republicans who won't vote for Trump. Trump already won in 2016. He already proved he could win.
From MAGA. That's not the way you win elections. Now, to my Republican family, I will say this. There are a few things we need to be looking at. The first thing is electability. If you have a candidate that can't win 40% of the vote in the early states, if you have a candidate who can't bring in independents, if you have a candidate that is driving people out of our party, then that is a sinking ship guaranteeing a President Kamala Harris. But it's not just the party that he's losing. He's shifting policy. Republicans used to be about fiscal responsibility. Republicans used to be about
Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld were fiscally responsible. Trillions upon trillions in never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, and God bless the veterans watching right now. God bless all the veterans of every war, military conflict in this country's history watching. God bless you. Our country owes a debt of gratitude to the men and women who kept us safe. We owe the men and women, the families of soldiers, better than Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Nikki Haley, Biden. It was Bush who was not responsible, fiscally responsible. Neither is Biden. Trump, we had record low poverty and record highs in household median income. And we had real wages up. Real wages have been down most of Biden's tenure. We had inflation low, like less than 3%. Interest rates for mortgage rates were 3% or lower. And now they're 7 to 8% with Biden. You're literally paying twice as much for a new home every month because of Biden. I mean, I'll take mean tweets. Okay, I'll take mean tweets. Everything Nikki Haley says, along with everything, almost everything Nikki Haley and almost everything Biden says, is a lie by omission or an outright lie. Like, oh, it's Trump's fault that, in states like Georgia, Arizona, or Michigan, the Republican Party lost ground. The Republicans were investigating Trump based on the Steele dossier purchased by Democrats. Well, what do you expect? Republicans did this to themselves because they wouldn't side with Trump. So, if you don't side with the president of your own political party, you have already ruined your political party for future contests. So, and that's not Trump's fault. That's the people who wanted to undermine Trump and join Democrats in doing so. So that's Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, and others. And all the $120 million, do you see anybody giving $120 million to Biden's competitors? There's a couple of them. No, you don't. But with Trump, you have conservatives giving $120 million to the never-Trump Nikki Haley. Okay, and then she's complaining about Republicans not doing well. Well, what do you expect? You have Republicans who think that Bush was a good president. That's a problem.
Smaller government and less spending. But under Donald Trump, he put us $8 trillion out of the $34 trillion, $8 trillion in debt in just 4 years.
Trying to blame Trump's last year in office for him, when Nikki Haley knows very well that Democratic governors, state governors, and media and bureaucrats push to shut down economic activity. And that wasn't Trump's policies. That was the apoplectic, hysterical response from bureaucrats who shall remain nameless. Certain bureaucrats shall remain nameless who wanted to shut down economic activity. That wasn't Trump's policy. That was the policy of media, the Democratic Party, liberals. The country would still be shut down. If liberals had their way, the country would still be shut down. Nobody could go to restaurants. And we'd all be wearing an 1800s diving helmet. So that was not Trump's policy. That was the policy of certain bureaucrats who shall remain nameless, and mainly state governors, blue state governors. Then they said eviction moratorium, man, and they forgot, they wouldn't allow people to work.
More than any other president. He's not once talked about fiscal responsibility. And since, what have we seen? Republicans and Democrats are now all spending like drunken sailors, and taxpayers are getting the short end of that stick. Then he's changed policy on national security. It used to be that Republicans cared about peace through strength. Now we don't see that anymore. Now we see Trump siding with Putin, a tyrant and a dictator who...
It was George W. Bush who looked into that man's soul. Remember that? Do you remember when Bush said, I looked into his eyes, I could see his soul? And then President Obama wanted a Russian reset. I mean, these people are like the biggest hypocrites. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, the political amnesia from never-Trump Republicans.
Who kills his political opponent, that puts us further in war, not preventing war. America can never be so arrogant.
We didn't have a war with Trump. We have numerous, major, endless quagmires with Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Biden, and President Obama.
To think we don't need friends. After 9/11, we needed a lot of friends. The idea that they...
Yeah, and Bush alienated all of them.
would be choosing that those now moving into the RNC are saying the RNC is only going to be about Donald Trump. You can hang up House, you can hang up Senate, and the rest of the ticket.
But you've never won the presidency. Trump has. Virtualist Trust, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Thank you so much. Virtualist Trust, thank you. She never won the presidency. Trump did. Trump won the presidency. There's a difference. Okay, there's a difference here. Virtualist Trust, thank you so much. To my super chat, thank you.
It is now becoming, the Republican Party's now becoming Donald Trump's playpen. And what I will tell you is I had a woman last night in Troy. We had several hundred people there. And she came up to me and she said, I have been a lifelong Republican. She said, I have never voted other than Republican. And she said, and now my friends are telling me because I don't support Donald Trump, I'm a Democrat. If this is the direction the Republican Party is going into, this is going to lead this country towards socialism. The Democrats, I fully believe.
What? What? What is that? What on earth is she saying? Virtual is trust. Thank you again. What? Not supporting Trump. Wait, thinking that you're a Democrat if you don't support Trump will lead us to socialism? I think that the opposite is true. If you don't support Trump, you're pushing the country more towards socialism. Okay? So you're pushing the country more towards the paradigm of let's collectively engage in policies that the entire world wants, regardless of whether it's good for the United States of America or not. Or the consensus of experts, which very, very directly correlates to central planning and communism. Okay, whenever Democrats, consensus of experts, it's very closely aligned with the tenets of communism. It's a consensus. It's the collective good.
Are going to have a younger candidate going into the general election. If Donald Trump is the candidate, Republicans will once again lose the election. We'll lose the swing states, we'll lose the House, we'll lose the Senate, and we won't take anything with us. Then,
if you have Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell undermining Trump, then you're right. Well, that's the case. But let's listen to former President Trump. This is in Georgia, ladies and gentlemen. And you can just compare the enthusiasm, the gravitas, the charisma from Nikki Haley to Trump. It's like you're listening to elevator music and then suddenly it's like 80s heavy metal. Or like 70s punk rock. It's like a completely different vibe.
But it's no wonder that Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones. There's nobody else. Nobody else. We're going to stop people. We're going to turn our country around. We're going to make our country so powerful, so great. That's why they are weaponizing law enforcement for high-level election interference against Joe Biden's top and only political appointment, a guy named me. It's a guy named me. Joe Biden and the fascists that control him are the real threat to democracy. Remember that. I'm not the threat to democracy. I'm stopping the threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. As an example, you read about this. Can you believe this? Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just posted a $91 million bond, 91 million, on a fake story, totally made up story. Think of it, 91 million. I could say things about what it would cost normally. 91 million. Based on false accusations made about me by a woman that I knew nothing about, didn't know, never heard of. I know nothing about her. She wrote a book, she said things. And when I denied it, I said, it's so crazy, it's false. I got sued for defamation. That's where it starts. And this is Democrat operatives. These are all her lawyers, a big Democrat operative. The judge was a disaster. But Democrat operatives funding and directing her, they gave her the money to pursue the case. They changed the law. New York is a very corrupt place. And this is killing New York because companies are leaving because they don't want to get caught in this bind. They changed the law that allowed women to go back like unlimited. And she went back and she said, yeah, the mid-90s maybe? I don't know. I had no idea when. Nothing. She knew nothing. She went on Anderson Cooper. And she was saying all these wonderful things. And then there was a commercial break. And then she said horrible things after the career. I wonder what happened there. But it was before a federal Democrat, Trump deranged judge. His name is Lewis Kaplan, an angry man. He screamed at my lawyer, screamed at her saying, we're going to essentially put you in jail, because she was incensed that this could be happening. He treated me like a common criminal. He's a terrible person, a terrible judge, and he's a disgrace to what's happening in New York. Think of it. I just posted because we're appealing. And in order to appeal, I had to post a $91 million bond. Normally, it would be you could do that, and then later on, if you go through an appeal process, which could take a long time, this woman is not a believable person. The judge knows this, but the judge is, in my opinion, he's a highly corrupt judge. You had to see the way he treated us in court. So I posted a $91 million bond, and the woman didn't even know when it happened. And she admitted on Anderson Cooper, oh, she said, I think it was sexy. It was this, can you believe this? 91 million. And then additionally, before another whacked out judge, this guy, you've been reading about it in New York. Companies don't want to go to New York anymore. You watch the impact this has. Arthur and Gorin, I got fined, listen to this one, $355 million for having done absolutely nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. And it was proven. He even claimed that magnificent Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach is at a different stratosphere from every other place in terms of houses and values. And Mar-a-Lago is the biggest, the best in the country, maybe in the world. Magnificent Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million when he knows it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. But this was good for his false and fake decision. He said I was guilty before the trial started, before he knew anything about it. He says he's guilty. We're only going to have a trial on how much. And this guy, Gorin, did exactly what the fascist and racist Attorney General of New York State, Letitia James, I call her Peekaboo James, who, by the way, is now being booed and heckled all over New York because they know it's a scam. But he did exactly what this racist, horrible human being told him to do. You know, she sued for $250.
We don't want to create our own.
I paid it back early. I had to pay a penalty for paying back early. How about that? Okay. I paid a penalty because I paid it back early. They didn't want the money. I said, anyway, the banker testified. The banker testified. No, the loan was perfect. Well, we don't understand. He didn't even know what he was doing there. And this judge, he levels a fine for $350 million, $55 million, $355 million on a loan that's a fraction of that size. Because he's a corrupt Democrat clubhouse judge. He wouldn't allow a jury. There was no jury. It was a statute that I was sued under that was never used before. It was a consumer fraud statute. Never, ever used before. Did you know that? Never used. Only first time. Where you're not allowed juries, you're not allowed anything. It was in the sole discretion of the judge, and this corrupt judge ruled that I have to pay $355 because you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take us out. And it's not going to work. Not going to work. Not going to work. It's not going to work. But this is all crooked Joe Biden. It's directed lawfare and weaponization against his political opponents. And that includes really all of us. It's what's happening is just an incredible thing. Now, take a look at your own neighborhood. You have a woman named corrupt Fani Willis. Fani. You have a woman named Fani Willis. Now, even though I believe it's spelled F-A-N-I, to my way of thinking, that's Fanny. But once she became the district attorney, I think she put a little emphasis on the U. Fani. So corrupt Fani Willis hired her lover, Nathan Wade, so they could fraudulently make money together. Let's make money, darling. Let's see, who can we go after? Well, if we go after somebody that nobody ever heard of, we can't make much. I got an idea. Let's do what Joe Biden and everybody else want. Let's go after Trump. And we did nothing wrong. Perfect phone call, other than we challenged the honesty of this election. This election was, isn't that romantic? Is anybody, I mean, it's sort of a beautiful love story to me. These are beautiful people. To me, it's a magnificent love story. Nothing like Gone with the Wind. You know, Gone with the Wind, you're not allowed to watch it anymore, right? You know that, right? It's politically incorrect to watch Gone with the Wind. They have a list. What were the greatest movies ever made? Well, Gone with the Wind is usually number 1 or 2 or 3. And then they have another list you're not allowed to watch anymore, Gone with the Wind. You tell me, is our country screwed up? But think of it. They went on these magnificent cruises, beautiful cruise lines, beautiful, beautiful cruise lines. And they got him because he was paying a fortune for taking more vacations than I've ever seen anybody in history take. Has anybody ever? She may set a record for the most vacations taken in the history of a job. But with money made wrongfully, prosecuting me and other innocent American patriots. We have a couple of them here right now, head of the Republican Party, an incredible guy. I mean, they went after him. He's a very good person. We have a certain gentleman in very high office who they went after too, but he beat them because everybody should beat them. And it's too bad a couple of people took a plea deal because they got off for nothing. But, you know, now they want to renegotiate their plea deal. They said this whole thing was a scam. But think of it. So we have Fani and her lover. But then they got caught because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what did they do? They paid it back. She said, oh, man, I'm screwed. Think of this. And they got me. They got me. I got it. I paid my lover back in cash. I get it. And now I, being a very good businessman, I said, now she's really in trouble because now somebody's going to say, where did you get the cash? But they don't ask those questions, do they? But I think the judge is going to ask those questions. I think the judge is an honorable guy. And this whole thing should be dropped because many, many innocent people, their lives have been hurt. I've sort of gotten used to it, to be honest with you. It's like, but these people, their life, they got indicted. Some of them were in their 70s and 80s. They got indicted, and they're great patriots. And they were protesting a corrupt election. They were protesting a corrupt election, or at least in their opinion, it was a corrupt election. I have no doubt about it, personally. But think of that. So now they have her because now she's taken money because she was a part of the trip, and the trips cost a lot of money, and they went on so many of them. It was so romantic, a beautiful thing to watch, right? Nobody knew she was away for most of the time. And they went after me. But just think of it. So now she's in trouble because she's taken money that she just gave him. So she said she gave it back in cash, okay? That's a lie. That's a total lie. And if it isn't a lie, then she's got a much bigger problem, okay? Where'd she get the cash? So this whole witch hunt should be put out of its misery and dismissed immediately. This is a horrible thing that they've done. They wanted to go after a very highly respected United States senator. And somebody used some common sense. I think somebody probably higher up said, no, you can't do that. A senator that said, is everything being honest in Georgia? Are they having honest elections? Let's indict him for asking that question. No, they tried to go after a couple of people that you wouldn't even believe if you heard their name. Their whole campaign plan is to attack me because they've done nothing else. That's all they have. And this is all coming out of Washington. I don't know if you know. I call him Lover Wade. Lover Wade. Lover Wade spent days in the White House counsel's office. Do you know that, right? Did you know that? North Carolina. Spent days in the White House and days in the DOJ. This is all a Biden thing. This is the Fannie is not a local state story. This is done in coordination with the White House. The DA in New York is done in coordination. They took their top person in the DOJ and put him in the Manhattan District Attorney's office to prosecute a gentleman named Donald Trump. Isn't that nice? They had a man, Pomerantz, who was Hillary Clinton's lawyer, represented the Democrat Party. He left the law firm, big law firm, smart law firm, very Democrat. It's okay. He left the law firm to serve free of charge in the DA's office in Manhattan to prosecute Donald Trump. So he's a big name lawyer, Pomerantz. And he left. Think of this. Think of this. He left the law firm, represented Hillary Clinton and the DNC and Democrats. And he left the law firm to go in and prosecute, I want no salary, free of charge Donald Trump. And then they came in and they said, these charges are bullshit. You can't do that. And he quit in a huff. And he wrote a book about it before the case was even determined. He wrote a book, a totally dishonest thing. Nobody's ever seen. And even Alvin Bragg, the DA, said, this is the worst thing. This is terrible. You got to see the statements he made. They want to prosecute Pomerantz now. But this is all coming from the White House. Colangelo is the lawyer's name. And he comes from the White House. He was one of the top people in the White House. And they put him into the local Manhattan DA's office in order to prosecute Donald Trump. This is crooked Joe Biden. And Letitia James is totally controlled by Washington. Letitia Peekaboo James. Did anybody ever hear of her? She's controlled, Peekaboo. She's controlled. Did you ever see the pictures of her campaigning? I will get Donald Trump. This is before she knows anything about me. She's applying to, she is working to become the Attorney General of New York. I will get Donald Trump. I will get him. I will get this son of a bitch. I will get him. I'm going to get him. I think that's a fair prosecutor.
These guys showed up.
New York State has got to clean up its act. And by the way, Fulton County has to clean up its act. They have to clean up their act. Pundits and inside sources say that the attacks on me will be violent. They say that it's violent. The attacks, Biden said it. He said, you know what their whole plan is? It was just released the other day. It was leaked by one of the many people that probably thought it was wrong. Their whole plan is to go after Trump in every way possible, especially criminally and legally. How would you like to have my life? You like that life? Darling, I go home to our wonderful First Lady. She never heard the word indictment. Neither did I until I got indicted so many times in the last few months. I got indicted more than the late, great Al Capone. Did anyone ever hear of him? Alphonse Capone. He was the meanest of them all. He was a gangster. If he had dinner with you and he didn't like you, you would be found dead the next morning. Your wife would not talk either because she was petrified. No, this was Al Capone. I got indicted more. My parents are looking down on me right now. They're saying, oh, my son, he's such a good boy. He didn't do this shit. Man, my father would say, he doesn't do this. Think of it. I got indicted more than Alphonse Capone, the meanest Scarface. Did anybody see the movie Scarface? He was not a nice man. Even Jim Jordan would be afraid of Scarface. Everybody was afraid of Scarface, but Scarface had a different kind of a thing. They didn't go after him like they go after me, I can tell you that. We can't let this happen. This has never happened in our country before. This happens in third world countries. This happens in banana republics. We can't let it happen here. And it's going to start with Pawnee, and hopefully they're going to end the case. They're going to end the case, not get rid of her, because this thing, and this affair was going on long before the case started, so the case is totally compromised. But we don't need to get rid of her and then put somebody else in there. It's unfair to all those people that got indicted. The list goes on, and they're good people, too. They're American patriots. They were protesting a rigged election, and it should start right here. They should throw out that fake deal from Fulton County. What they should do, they should spend their time going over the votes in Fulton County. That's what they should do. But the attacks will come through various places and through the Justice Department and FBI, even if they have no evidence whatsoever, because they don't care what happens after the election. They only care what happens before, because they want to try and damage me. But here's what's happened. I'm able to explain the situation. And if I was guilty of something, you'd know it. And the polls are all saying he's not guilty. It's a witch hunt. And it is. I've gone through this witch hunt with Russia, Ukraine. They raided my house in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. They raided with they had no reason to do so. They violated my Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. They can't raid your house. They're not allowed to do it. They raided it. But a thing like this has never, ever happened before.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing stopping Trump. There ain't nothing stopping Trump. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They didn't raid any Democrats, the residence of any Democrats. Rob, thank you. Thank you again, Rob, to my super chat. Thank you. Everybody, Paul Bartlett, everybody here, virtual, everybody here. Thank you. Peter, that's good. Thank you, everybody. Be here tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. I would say about 12 Eastern, 12 p.m. Eastern, noon Eastern time. Hit subscribe if you're new. If you want to read my writing in the Hill, thank you, Angie Shavuota, thank you. If you want to read my writing in the Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. My Patreon, ladies and gentlemen, will be below in the pinned comment. And I go to the gym sometimes, lift some heavy weights, so you'll see me dumbbell press 90 pounds, 90-pound dumbbell press. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. God bless you all. Be here in November and beyond, because we're going to celebrate. This is going to be a celebration, a year of celebration. And I'm glad to be on this journey with you. I thank God that I have each and every one of you. Paul and my viewers in Australia, thank you so very much. Pony Soldier, thank you. Paul Bartlett, Nicholas, everybody in Australia, thank you. To my viewers in the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, everywhere around the world, Nigeria, Ghana, Sweden, thank you so very much. God bless you all. See you tomorrow, everybody.